Wow, has it already been almost a year since I last dropped the announcement of the Mesopas region and my starters? Well, I guess it's a good thing I stockpiled a lot for this video. I'm sorry it took so long, but hey, the results will speak for themselves. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm the Envoy of Kairos, and this is the Mesopas region, the origin of civilization in the Pokemon universe, and home of the first great travesties to befall it, a region based on the western Middle East, from the west coast of Anatolia to the Zagros mountain range, and south all the way through the Arabic Peninsula, a vast territory with a multitude of old and treasured cultures throughout. As such, I simply knew I had to make a Pokemon region based on this territory. And the results so far are, well, I'm surprising myself with it. But I'm sure you're wondering what you can come to expect of this region, and your own adventures here. Well, I'm working on character designs and a map still, but for now, how about we get to a collection of early Route Pokemon, covering both brand new creations and regional variants. To begin, let's take a look at our Route 1 bug. This is Nakshron. His name is rather simple, coming from the Arabic words for grub and rock, being Naksh and Sakhron. I hope I pronounced those right. I did look it up and listen to some examples, but it's still a language I'm largely unfamiliar with. Although their name includes rocks, they're not quite rock type, but they eat them. For an advantage over those rocks and easily finding and collecting them, they're actually bug ground type. Nakshron has a specialized diet of stones high in iron, supplemented with dried grass and fallen leaves. As they consume such high amounts of iron, it fuses with their hide and gives them the reddened pattern across their backs, as well as hardening their claws. The three larger claws on their tail allow them to tear through stone with relative ease, and shovel mouthfuls of iron-laden rubble into their mouth. They're bottomless little things, as many larval Pokemon tend to be. But the moment they've had their fill, you should be prepared for a drastic change. And that change is Kadifuran. Their name is a portmanteau of Kadira and Furan, the Arabic words for pupa and furnace. Of course, that's exactly what they are. After consuming mass amounts of iron and carbon, they seal themselves up and internally combust, producing insane heat, but very rarely allowing it to escape their stony hide. They're bug rock type, although they do have access to some fire type moves, but they prefer to keep that heat locked up tight, where it can continuously melt the iron to prepare the carapace for their final body. Of course, to prevent conduction from transferring too much, the three claws of their previous form now act as three immobile legs, much like a bar stool. This form does stress them a good degree due to all the heat, becoming quite the angry little devil. But it's all taken in stride for the sake of perfecting their final form. A proper blacksmith has to be able to take the heat and weather the burns if they're going to make a masterpiece. Just as such, a trainer must be ready to handle this Pokemon's temper if they wish to raise a marvel from their final evolution. Unlike many other Route 1 bugs, this one takes a good deal of time and effort, proving just as long as Orbeetle. But when it's complete, the results are breathtaking. With the forging complete, Kadifuran emerges from its cocoon as Damascarab. Damascarab has forged all the iron and carbon they consumed into a Damascus steel hide, with a unique pattern that no other Damascarab will ever be able to replicate. That's not to say there aren't pattern types that are replicated among them, but exact details are never quite the same. Studies show that a Damascarab's pattern type is most closely associated to their most dominantly refined stat. Of course, Damascarab is based on a combination of the Damascus beetle, common to Turkey and Syria, and Damascus steel, named after the city of Damascus, also represented in the Mesopas region. Damascus steel creates striking artistic patterns due to irregular banding of higher carbon and higher iron concentration. Some believe this results in a stronger or sharper blade, but that depends on what it's being compared to. It is slightly more durable than stainless steel in the sense that it won't break clean through quite as easily, more likely chipping along the contours of a weaker band in its structure. As an artisan's metal, it's quite stunning, but don't expect it to have some borderline supernatural properties just because of a few myths. One interesting advantage of the way Damascus steel is made, though, is that the carbon and iron balance is easily adjusted, with various results. As such, Damascarab actually comes in 3 versions with differing stats. For high iron Damascarab, you simply pupate them while holding steel coat. You'll lose the steel coat permanently, but the resulting Damascarab has higher iron concentration, a higher defense, and a higher HP, but its speed and special defense are reduced. If you give them charcoal to pupate with, you receive the high carbon Damascarab, wielding higher speed, higher attack, and a higher special defense, but low defense and HP. The increased special defense in high carbon form is due to carbon's higher melting point, so I wanted to give them a little buff against their biggest kryptonite. Collectively, this line's ability options are Swarm, Mold Breaker, and Tough Claws as a hidden ability. Even without a moveset and exact stats presented, I'm sure some competitive players are gonna see this Pokemon and desperately want them on their team. Moving on, how about I give you a regional variant now? Now, there's an interesting tale behind this one that I think Loxton would be a bit jealous I snagged before him. Time for some alchemy mythology. You see, there was once a great Persian folk hero named Rustum. A powerful warrior, pinnacle of humanity, basically Persian Heracles. One day, he saves a group of Islamic nomads known as Magians, whom in various other references to them throughout history are believed analogous to early alchemists, traveling between Iran and Kashmir, where alchemists of Islamic, Taoist, and Hindu faiths gathered to corroborate and expand their knowledge. When Rustum saved these alchemists, their elder offered to repay him for his heroism, but Rustum declared that he already had everything he could ever ask for within this mortal world. And so, the alchemist offers to instead create something new for him. To do so, he plucks fire from the earth, smoke from the air, and starlight from the heavens, and uses them to create the first Persian kitten. As such, I give you Mesopan Meowth, a fire fairy type with direct ties to alchemy, and still wielding the ability to generate gold spontaneously, which is just even more fitting. The colors of their base design are a bit similar to the original, but their mannerisms and shaggier fur make quite a stark contrast. But seeing how close they are to the original, and knowing my plans for Persian, I decided that their shiny colors should be representative of Alolan and Galarian Meowth. Moving forward, we have the Mesopan Persian. Now, this baggy-furred beast is a beauty, adapting some leopard traits for their triangular spots. You may have missed this, but Meowth's tail was reshaped into skewed concentric triangles as well, to reference the alchemical symbol for fire. There's also a gender division in Persian, as the males have this coin representing the alchemical symbol for sun, the masculine divine, while females have a moon coin. As the shiny colors suited the moon better, I also depicted the female Persian in shiny form for you. Interestingly, I'm not quite done with this Pokemon just yet, but you'll have to wait a while to see what they become next, as there's a lot of lore surrounding them, and a few relevant species I'll be waiting to introduce to you in a later video. For now, how about another original? A simple one this time. Every region needs a Pika clone, but what type combination should I use for one this time? There's so many options, and practically every possible part of the world to use has an abundance of rodents to pick from. But I did find one interesting choice. This is Moguden, a Pika clone based on the yellow ground squirrel. Just look at this adorable little thing. Its colors are already perfect. So I made a fatter, friendlier one that adapts some more mole-like traits, and looks just as inviting and mascot-worthy as the rest of the Pika clone roster. Yellow ground squirrels do a lot of burrowing, as the Mesopotamian region is rather lacking in trees, resulting in needing less balance and trajectory correction, so much of their tails are receded and gone. Because of all their digging, I've of course elected to make them electric ground type. And to make up for how unbroken they are compared to Electros, and to keep them on par with the greatness of Morpeko, I've created an original move for them called Fulgurite Field. They burrow for a full turn, and for the extra preparation time, they produce a ground-type entry hazard that both damages and has a high chance to paralyze. Of course, it's named after fulgurite, crystal formations made by lightning striking sediment that melts together in the sudden heat. Could make for a plethora of interesting strategies. Now we need another regional. How about we flip the script and go into a water-type cat this time? So, here's Mesopan Glameow. You may wonder what the logic of a water-type cat is, and it's much more fitting than you may think. This is Lake Van, Turkey. This is the largest lake in the region, and home to a breed of cat with two very unique traits. For one, although the Turkish Van cat as popularized outside Turkey has orange tails and scalps, that's actually an exported mix, and local pure breeds are all stark white, with a dominant gene for heterochromia. The most common coloration is one blue and one yellow or amber eye, possibly green. The other odd trait is that the Van cat absolutely loves water. They swim constantly, if they can, and stray ones are seen out on the lake, while domestic ones are jumping into bathtubs and pools. It's just amazing to watch. The only problem is that a stark white cat Pokemon is, well, dull. So I decided to instead give them some colors and markings based on the same colors as their heterochromia, and in the same positions as the popularized foreign breed's orange spots. And of course, the shiny uses the same colors as the foreign breed, for the contrast and representation. But how do they evolve? Well, here is Mesopan Perugly. Quite the difference from the abomination that repeatedly tormented us with its truckload of HP in Diamond and Pearl. This time, the white has been largely swapped for a dark gray, and the blues and yellows have darkened and solidified into a pattern reminiscent of a diving suit. The fur in their ears is largely hydrophobic, and keeps them from getting water in their ears on long dives. To last for those dives, the fur on the end of their tails filters oxygen out of the water to function as an organic rebreather. So instead of the original Purugly with its tail as a girdle, this one's tail wraps underneath and up onto their face and nose. To go with their deep water hunting, I've also added the dark type to Mesopan Purugly. And now we move back to originals. So how about the Route 1 bird? This one's gonna be a doozy. To begin, we have Partroll. They're flying ground type, and yeah, I know this art isn't the best. I wanted to refine it more, but I couldn't if I wanted to finish the video on time. Its evolutions look much better. Regardless, the concept is intact. They're a fat, untrusting bird that prefers to stick to their own kind, and their undeveloped wings, plus a lack of trees to perch in, result in them rolling around a lot as a second method of travel. This, of course, means rollout is in their moveset, and I know any excuse to have rollout in an early game moveset is good. Of course, they're based on the sand partridge, as for some reason we don't have any partridge Pokemon yet, which I found quite odd. The sand partridge is fairly common, and has multiple similarities to much larger cousin species that's the inspiration for its following evolutions. This is Filbrood. Filbrood is based on Filby's partridge, named after British researcher and self-proclaimed explorer St. John Filby, who had an obsession with the Arabic Peninsula. He moved there, found a wife, had a ton of kids, renamed a few animals, advised Ibn Saud during his conquest of the peninsula, which he severely endangered multiple indigenous nomadic cultures with, and then translated for negotiations regarding crude oil trade to the US and UK, getting Saudi Arabia a raw deal. As such, Filbrood is a lazy, demeaning rock-type bird that never bothers flying and even commands a small flock of Partroll to defend and feed them. Their ability Fearful Flock halves their attack, but makes every attack hit from 1 to 3 times, providing a wider range and higher cap of damage, but making it a bit random. But when their HP reaches half, their ability triggers a form change in which the flock flees from their range, and they become a dark rock-type, drooling masses of organic oil, used in a couple of new attacks I'm making. The oil is actually produced by their love of tomato berries, and adapting a biology that compacts and weaponizes the components of them that reduce speed. This is especially fitting for the area, as tomato production in southern Anatolia is staggering. As for their name, it's Filby, Brood, and Crude for the oil. But of course, this bird needs a third form. So we have Filbuster. I mean, if you live in America and look at this guy and hear that name, you know what I'm referencing, and you're probably laughing at least internally. Yes, it's a reference to the Republican Party's patented filibuster technique, throwing political fits to prevent any progress, and getting their flock of misled idiots to spew more of their sickening rhetoric. Filibuster is already dark rock type to begin with, and still has Fearful Flock, but the form change afterwards is a little more drastic. Yeah, this bird is so angry it's going to burn down everything around it, just because you dared to act against its will. Filibuster is incredibly obnoxious to tame, but they don't exactly want much besides a steady stream of food, and to be comfortable while warming their cold heart by their burning enemies, which happens to be anyone who wants the same things they do, or anything they already considered theirs, which is everything they want. So just don't mess with them. Just don't. Finally, we'll end this off with a twofer, a regional with an original evolution that happens to be a strong but rare catch in an off-route detour area early into the region. Here's Mesopan Yamask. Now, you may wonder why the clay tablet and reed pen, and what type they could mean, when we already have ground type from Galarian Yamask. You see, my take on Yamask is that the objects they carry are embodiments and symbols of concepts that tie their soul to the mortal plane. Unnovan Yamask was bound by attachment to their identity and life. Galarian Yamask was bound by their creed and a curse. In this case, Mesopan Yamask is bound by their debts. Let me explain. You see, in ancient Sumeria, indentured servitude was a common answer to severe debt, resulting in most of them serving in wheat fields and reed farms, as reed was used as a common construction material in lieu of wood, as Mesopotamia didn't really have much wood. Then, there's the fact that some of our first records of business and debt historically, and the first translated Sumerian texts, were cuneiform tablets recording a wheat farmer's taxes. Pulling it all together, it was believed in Sumeria that anyone improperly buried would never properly rest in death. Yet the poor were consistently buried in haphazard manners, which easily would have resulted in many ghosts resurrected essentially by their unpaid debts. Now, since this Yamask was a wheat farmer, and a wielder of tools of multiple materials with a lasting and resistant physique, I chose for this one to be Ghost Fighting type. A new, unique combination, with a really messed up philosophy behind it. Of course, I replaced cuneiform with unknown pictograms, as is traditional of depicting ancient language in the Pokemon universe. Of course, no Yamask variant is complete without a creepy evolution, so I give you Reaper Regus. As with all Yamask evolutions, they're based on the burial habits of the culture they represent. So in this case, the poor of Sumeria were often buried rolled up in reed mats or curled up in woven baskets, using the broken tablet as the base of their body, then wrapping them in a reed mat shroud with a woven basket hat. It makes a familiar figure that feels truly complete when wielding the scythe they once used in the fields in life. And to tie it all together, this Pokemon embodies a death and taxes joke. I love it too much to put to words. Oh, and the unknown text on this one, when arranged properly, says Daremo ga shinu, meaning everyone dies. Even more fitting for an angry undead indentured servant, right? But for a real kick to these guys, I have two abilities in mind for them. One is Mold Breaker, which is always good for a frontline fighter Pokemon to have. But their moveset is also going to include a lot of powerful stat buff options, including a unique move titled Reap Rewards. It's a physical ghost move, 70 base damage, and steals stat buffs after hit. So basically if Marshadow's Spectral Thief were remotely balanced. But why give them all these stat buff options when they're also a Mold Breaker user and meant to be a frontline fighter? Well, I want this one to be versatile. Instead of just being a frontline fighter, I want them to also have potential to be incredibly potent support. So, I'm making the unique ability Last Will. What's it do? Baton Pass on KO. So, buff the hell out of them, and then see how much stronger your next unit gets when they finally fall. Considering they're going to have ancient power in their moveset, you should definitely expect that they're going to last a bit at first, and then they're going to stack up enough buffs to make whatever comes next an absolute monster. So, which option do you want? The heavy buffing support, or the absolutely devastating frontline fighter? Choice is yours. So, you may have noticed by now that I haven't touched upon a few early root tropes just yet. And you're right, I'm still working on them. And one I've planned is being reserved for a video about Pokemon with branching evolutions and variations. You guys are gonna love it, I'm absolutely sure of that. For now, this is where I'm gonna have to cut it. I have so much planned for you, and I'm not yet sure what I'll be doing next. But you can help with that. Just follow the link below to my Patreon, become a patron, and you can vote on a poll to decide the content focus for the next video for the Mesopas region, and see a few sketch previews of some things to expect of them. You'll also find content regarding my original novel series I'm working on, titled Control, and its many pseudoscientific mechanics and characters, whom I also have speed paint videos for up on this channel. You can probably expect the video you're now watching to be followed shortly by the first episode of my Pokemon Legends Arceus playthrough, if you're looking for more familiar content. And for something adjacent, I have some original Digimon speed painted as well. But I've given you all I have for this video. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Envoy of Kairos, signing out, and I hope to see you back here for another amazing video. Oh, and P.S., shout out to TrueGreen7. You do your thing focusing on Abrahamic myth, and I'll do my region with Sumerian. And then we'll see whose legend roster is more impressive by the end. Keep up the awesome work, man. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking to support me a little further, maybe get some bonus content, or just keep up with me and other fans, you can find links down in the description leading to my Patreon, my Discord, and my Twitter. And if you're following me on Patreon, then you can expect some content polls to decide what's coming up on the channel, yet a little bit of background additions to some other series I've been working on, some more original and creative stuff. And who knows, if enough of you start supporting me soon, I might have a few other surprises up my sleeve too. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all again on the next video.